can you ever know a man well enough to condemn his religion? I mean, I've met you a couple of times, but I could never say anything about your religion one way or the other. And it's like, I would never think it was be my place to condemn or talk about your religion.
Especially if he's reaching back 30 years using an anonymous source to get there. I mean, I think it's fairly transparent to any objective person that this is an act of desperation on his part, and we'll watch, you know, and see which way you decide to go on this whole thing. But I think it is reflective of the times that we live in. He had attended a Muslim school, that he got in trouble for making faces during Quran studies, etc. Do you think any of this? He said at one point that the call to prayer at sunset was one of the most beautiful things on the face of the earth.
Why didn't anybody ever mention that that man right there was raised, spent the first decade of his life raised by his Muslim father as a Muslim, and was educated in a madrasa?
Now, you have to understand, Barack Obama was not a Christian until Jeremiah Wright. He has said on several occasions that he understood Jesus through Jeremiah Wright. So it's not like he was raised, you know, a Catholic or Episcopalian or anything else. He was raised, if I'm not mistaken, Muslim for a while.
And by the way, has Obama ever called Muslims bitter clingers? Well, he's called Christians bitter clingers. He did that in San Francisco. I'm just throwing these things out here, folks, because if people are questioning his Christianity, some think he's a Muslim. I'm just saying there might be reasons why some people think this.
Let's go through the history of this. Remember, he said we're not a Christian nation. He said America is arrogant. He went on the apology tour. His first major speech was on Al Arabiya TV. He gave his next two major speeches were in Turkey and Cairo. Remember, the NASA chief said the top priority was Muslim outreach. The money, $900 million to Hamas, controlled Gaza Strip. His treatment of Benjamin Netanyahu, his lack of outspokenness on the Iranian democracy movement, the refusal to acknowledge the Fort Hood shooter was a terrorist, and we can go on and on here.
The Lockerbie bomber that I raised the other night.
All right, so are Americans, because I know the liberal media will portray how Americans, look how ignorant they are. Why do you think they've made that conclusion?
That's why he highlights that, because that's his understanding of distorted Christianity.
We should also point out that Barack Obama's father is the one who gave him the middle name of Hussein. And the thing about the madrasa, and, you know, let's be honest about this. In the last number of years, madrasas have been, we've learned a lot about them. Financed by Saudis, they teach this Wahhabism, which pretty much hates us. The big question is, was that on the curriculum back then? Probably not, but it was a madrasa, and the big question is whether or not any of these revelations about the fact that he was a Muslim.
Go poll the people that work at NASA and ask them if they think Obama's a Muslim. Does he turn NASA over to a Muslim outreach program?
I think he is a Christian that Christians don't recognize.
The guy holds an Easter egg roll. The White House website promoting the Easter egg roll does not mention Jesus or Christ. It talks about environmentalism.
He didn't come out and say, look, I was over in Indonesia for 5 years, or roughly 5 years, went to a madrasa, and there is some reports that Wahhabism was the curriculum there, which is a problem because they start with, we hate America, and work their way back from there.
Well, the way it was framed in one of his biographies, he said, quote, I was sent first, this is in Indonesia, to a Catholic school and then to a predominantly Muslim school. He doesn't say, I went to a madrasa where they taught Wahhabism. He simply says, I went to a predominantly Muslim school.
All right, Jim from Alabama, what do you think?
Jim?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think a Muslim would be fine in the presidency better than Hillary. At least you know what the Muslims are up to.
Yeah, we want to be clear, too, that this isn't all Muslims. Of course, we would only be concerned about the kind that want to blow us up.
That nobody is explaining why Barack Obama doesn't feel right. And we've tried to do that. we've tried to show you that social justice, as understood by Barack Obama and people like Barack Obama that understand his form of Christianity, it is socialism. It's Marxism. That is its root. Social justice is Marxism at its root.
Obama says he's a Christian, but where's the evidence? Well, he went to Reverend Wright's church. Yeah, but he says he didn't hear anything that was said in there. And by the way, Reverend Wright's church is a weird brand of Christianity. Reverend Wright's church, black theology, is what comes out of that pulpit, which is, not exactly mainstream Christianity.
And it shows contempt for the scriptures. It is, again, liberation theology. Liberation theology. Why would you bring up the slave thing? Does anybody really think that that's what we're really all about? Really? The slave thing? Why would you bring up that? Because that's an important part of the Jewish story to Barack Obama's preacher. Slavery. The oppressor versus the oppressed.
Barack Obama, we know he went to Trinity United. We know he sat in the pews of Jeremiah Wright, studied black liberation theology. Why do you think 1 in 4 think that he is a Muslim?
Because of his actions, since he became president has been pandering to the Islamic world, apologizing on behalf of America to the Islamic world, praising the Islamic world while putting America down. His first television exclusive was to Al Arabiya television, where he bragged about his family members were Muslims. The video address that he sent to the Iranians, congratulating them on their spring holiday, the speech in Cairo. So the American public is seeing a pattern, and right now what they are seeing is a president who is so out of touch with the American public, out of touch with 70% of Americans, while he is still trying to appeal to the Islamic world and not listening to his own people.
All right, let me go to Brigitte. Always good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
When this debate ends, you'll notice that I will not be shaking his hand tonight. I will not shake hands with someone who attacks my religion and attacks my Christian beliefs.
America's chickens are coming home to roost.